Hey guys, how you doing? So one of the gaps that's been mentioned to me is that people finish the PPL, great, and then they set off on this big hour building journey, but there isn't really much in the way of structure for what they should focus on and so on to try and get them as ready as possible to pass the CPL and IRA exams, or to be at least ready to take the courses. So just a little bit of a YouTube video just to show, and if you try like share some of the things that you could be working on whilst you're hour building, just to make the transition once you get your CPL course and your IR course that much easier. I'll split it into 3 sections. I'll keep it as short as I can. I'll focus on the departure. I'll focus then on the en route, and then we can look at general handling and, if you like, coming back to the airfield. All right, cheers. Right then, so departure, what's really important for the departure? So the big difference between PPL flying and CPL or IR flying is going to be the formality. So PPL, it's like, oh, we turn up, the weather looks all right, come then, let's go, who cares where we're going, we'll figure it out and we'll make a plan as we go. That doesn't work in CPL. Remember, the deal is we're going to be paying members of the public flying, so there has to be a lot more of a formal process and a lot more rigor to what we're doing, because ultimately we're now going to go flying with general members of the public. So the first one, which I guess I've had to work on, was the earlier you get used to the documentation side of things, the better. So the first thing that you're going to do before we go flying anyway is we need to check the aircraft documents. So at the bottom of this video, there's a list of the main documents that you need to get your head around. And okay, once let's say you're flying the same aircraft, it's probably not necessary to look every single time, you know, if you're flying twice a day, to look at this, but just get your head around it, get familiar with what the stuff looks like, and just keep refreshing is what I would say. So great, we've got our airplane, aircraft documents are all sound, right, let's go flying. No, we can't just do that, we need to actually plan the flight. So exactly as you used to, let's come up with a good plug, with a map drawn out. I know there's reliance now on GPS and all the various tools that come out, but during the CPL skills test, you will be asked to navigate using map, compass, stopwatch, eye. So there's no harm in using the various tools that are out there. I mean, they're brilliant. And from my point of view, if you're flying around in tight airspace, and it's quite congested, it's quite finicky, then by all means use all the tools available to you. Nobody's saying that. But by the same token, you know, don't spend your 100 hours hour building purely flying off the magenta line, because that's not going to help you when you get to the course. So what I used to do is I would plan my route out on paper with the map, and then I would also have my Sky Demon with me. I'll try to do as much as I can with the map just to get used to it, and also just to give the confidence that it will work. And then once you're there, you'll probably find that you're only looking really occasionally at Sky Demon, just make sure you're not about to do something really silly. So once the flight is planned, what then do we need to look at? Then, of course, we need to look at weather. And we need to get weather from the official sources as well. So get your logins sorted, get used to putting in the codes, the boundaries that you want the weather to come in for, and so on, because that's what the examiner will expect you to do. You won't be able to just pop in with your phone and say, hey, this is the weather from Sky Demon. That won't cut the mustard. And then the next one is going to be the NOTAMs. So again, get used to getting the NOTAMs from the official sources. The new tools we have to us make it so easy. They just put them on the phone or on the iPad or whatever. But again, for the exam purposes, it's going to need to come from the official sources. It's pretty easy to do. It's just get yourself into the rhythm of that. And then finally, just depending on what your flying school was like during your PPL, you may or may not have had much involvement in the tech log. And again, it's just good to start to get into the habit of looking at the tech log, seeing what the status of the aircraft is, you know, how many hours has got left, how much more time has it got to the next major service, has there been any work, all that kind of thing, because the examiner will expect you to brief him or her on what you've found so far. So that is mainly it, if you like, for the formalities before we go flying. And then from there, so now we're walking out to the aircraft. Again, going back to the formality thing, your walk around needs to be as per the pilot operating handbook or your approved checklist. I know as time goes on, you get into the habit, you get into your own rhythm, which is fine, but not for CPL purposes. You will have to demonstrate that you are following the approved documentation and all the actions that you take. And then starting up again, all as per the normal pilot operating handbook or your checklist. Really, really rigid on that. And then just be extra disciplined on your checklists and get used to saying them out loud. I know you probably got them committed to memory and you just do them, but again, the examiner will want to see that you're doing your checklist, and the only way he or she can know you're doing them is if you do them out loud. And eventually you just get into the rhythm, becomes automatic. And all this will make that transition from when you start your CPL course or your IR course that much easier, because all these behaviors are natural and fairly automatic. So you've then got the capacity to work on the difficult bit, which is, some of the more challenging flying maneuvers or whatever. So that's pretty much the departure. We'll talk about the en route next. Right, so for the en route section now then, the main one again is discipline and formality all the way through this for CPL and IR flying. So once you take off, really clean off the takeoff checks, get your free day checks done, your fuel checks, keep a decent fuel plug going. And as long as you get into the habit of writing down, right, we're on the left tank now, we've run the left tank for 20 minutes, we're moving on to the right tank, and can show the examiner what your fuel plan is going to look like, then they'll be more than happy with that. But the important thing is to do it, as the bulk of people don't really have the formality of doing it. So during our building, wherever you are going, one of the things I used to challenge myself with is every flight, or as frequently as I could that allows us, push yourself to go in and out of controlled airspace. Instead of, let's say if you live in the north of England, instead of always going down the low level corridor, well, give Liverpool radar a shout and see if they give you zone transit. And the more comfortable you get with going in and out of controlled airspace and the zone transit, and all the things that are involved with that, getting your ATIS and so on, will again free up capacity when you come on to do your CPL and IR course, because it won't really be that big a deal. So as I say, try and go through controlled airspace where you can, when it's safe to do so and also legal to do so. That's certainly a great thing. So just on the en route section, whilst you're enjoying your flying and taking your friends all these exotic places, try and also push the locations of the places that you're going to if the conditions allow. So for example, if you're in England, can you fly to France, for example? Le Touquet was one of my favorite places to go to. And to try to do some of these other things that will push you to have to do certain things like flight plans and so on. And again, it just aids the learning process. So when you get to the CPL course, it's not a massive shock to the system. And just before I leave the en route section, from time to time, you don't really have to do it every flight, but just get used to having some radio aids tuned, either tracking a VOR or tracking an NDB or whatever, or just using it to identify your location, because that will also be part of the CPL course. And again, the more fluent and the more comfortable you are really using the instrumentation, the easier things will be for you. So that's near enough the main one for the en route section. The big one is just enjoy your flying. You probably won't have a time in your life again where you can just say to your friends, hey, let's go halfway across the country. Why? To get some fish and chips or a cup of tea or whatever. So yeah, absolutely enjoy your flying, guys. So now you've got to the stage where you've taken your examiner wherever he wants to go, and at some stage he'll say to you, right, so-and-so, I would like you to divert me to X. And one of the things, or one of the great skills that you can keep practicing every 10 or 15 hours or maybe just depending on how you feel, is just practice your diversions and your diversion management. Initially start off with big targets to divert to, big cities and so on, and then slowly refine that to work towards smaller and smaller and smaller targets, just to give you the confidence of the map, compass, hand, eye coordination, basically, as you're doing your diversions. So from there, you'll then move on to the general handling. So here, there'll be requests to do various turns, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, steep turns, which you can do on your own when, the days aren't that great for you to fly halfway across the country. You don't have to waste the day just bumbling around. You can take the opportunity to practice and refine some of these things. Steep turns. What's the other one that's also quite a good one? If it's safe and the limitations of where you're flying from allow stalling and PFLs also, although for stalling and PFLs, I'll probably recommend that you ask an instructor or somebody, at regular intervals to fly with you, maybe every 25, 30 or 40 hours, just to allow you to go off and do some of these things in confidence. And also it keeps your flying skills channeled and formal. So if you're starting to drift, at least there's somebody who's more experienced that can pick up and say, oh, actually, maybe you need to consider doing this. And finally, once you get back to the airfield, you'll do a number of different circuits, flapless, glide, touch and goes and so on. Again, just practice getting these out. When you've got a cloud base of, let's say, 1,300 feet and there's not really much scope to go a great distance, then that's the perfect kind of day where you can come back or come into the airfield, do an hour or two, just brush up your circuits, brush up your glide approaches, which will also help you for your PFLs, and also, if it's safe to do so, bad weather circuits. That's basically about it. If you look at the bottom of the link, at the bottom of the video, there's some notes in there for some of the key references that I've made to, and also a link to one of the books that really helped me get ready for my CPL. Not much more to say to you other than enjoy the flying. Great time, and probably the only time in your life where you'll be able to just go around the skies with some freedom. Thanks.